only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
We no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer! Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters, where we're going to bring you the news and reviews of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
Now, we are back at the Humeville in Humeville. I will one of these days not have to remind myself
Did
to say
the
it right.
GPS call it Humville?
Which is weird because it knew Hume Road or Street, but then it said Humeville Inn.
The way that she said Neshaminy was even better, though.
Oh, how did it say Neshaminy?
I don't even remember.
Nasha Mini.
Nah,
Humville sounds like, this is already on a tangent, sounds like a Dr. Seuss, like something out of a Dr. Seuss book.
It could
like
be,
all the
yeah.
hums in Humville.
All the hums in Humeville.
I will not go there on a train. I will not go there in the rain.
But what about on a plane?
I will not go there on a plane.
What if your name is Jane?
Especially not if my name is Jane.
Do you have
we
a
suck
Great
at
Dane?
this.
I know. I'm just trying to go through. Well,
So we have a pretty exciting episode today, guys. Why don't we get into it?
Hey, we have a guest here.
I have been looking forward to this, and the guy that we've got on the show tonight is one of the most well-respected people in the beer community, I think overall, let alone in Pennsylvania. But we have with us the man himself,
Lou Bryson.
Lou. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Sure, pleasure.
I think along the way we might have met you at events forever ago, but I'm sure you meet so many people.
I think.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
we're all usually drunk. So.
Of course.
I
Yeah,
think we
that
need
tends
to
to be
let
the
our
case.
listeners know, though, that I did not actually book this episode. Rich actually
Yeah.
did. Rich sort of accosted you, I think, at the last event that we saw you. And he's like, we need to get Lou on your podcast. We're going to get Lou on the podcast. And that was his mission that day.
Rich is always looking out for us. Thank
And
you,
Lou
Rich.
so graciously said yes.
I'm gonna-
And hold on. I have
Okay.
this has to be
Uh-oh.
public.
Whoa.
You are the best at responding to emails. No, seriously. When I first reached out to you,
There are going to be people in the internet who disagree with you.
well, no, I deal with emailing brewers and brewery owners all the time, and I get it. They have a lot on their plates, but I just have to give you kudos. I really appreciate that, how quickly you responded, and we set this up and made it happen. So, all right there. I gave my shout out, so now we can get the show on the road.
You did, Wayne. You had something you seemed like you were going to say.
I was just going to say that it seems that Rich has consistently booked our most high-profile guests
I was
on
going to
the
say
show.
it too. Yeah.
You know,
'Cause
I think
also,
maybe he needs a promotion.
Yeah, he also grabbed us the beer wench.
He did.
When
It's
we were
the
recording a
hats
while
that
ago.
he wears.
It is.
It's like, I'll never forget the first time I met Jim Cook, and I was like, all I want to do is talk to this man about beer. And I say hi, and then he sees Rich's Bruins hat, and Jim Cook was gone for the night. That was it. That was it.
Well, you gotta wear the right attire for the crowd. You know.
I guess so.
Yeah. Well, we do really have a lot that's going to happen. Of
We do
course,
have a sipping beer, though.
We do have a sipping beer. That's one of the first things
Which we
that I
should
did
talk
want
about
to say.
first,
Yeah.
because we always forget. We are drinking. I brought a bunch of PA beers tonight,
Which is perfect.
and we're drinking one of my favorite PA beers,
It's so
Sunshine
good.
Pills.
Yes, I love this
from
beer.
Trogs Brewing Company. And this 6-pack was courtesy of James, one of our patrons,
Thank
who
you,
brought
James.
it super, super fresh. And these are the last 2 bottles that I've been hoarding. But
I think James deserves a promotion as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
much. Yeah.
So good sipper.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, and thank you. Oh, yes, Prost. Yeah, we'll go that way. But we do have a lot that's happened, of course, out there in podcast land. Don't forget, you can be part of the Beer Busters train, I suppose. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Beer Busters. There's, of course, Facebook. You can try the .com and do /Beer Busters Podcast, or just type in that little search thingy. You know, you'll find us, or beerbusterspodcast.com. And it's all linked on there. And don't forget that phone number, 805-991-BEER, 805-991-2337. And thank you to the jokesters who prank messaged us
We were listening to them while
Yeah.
during sound check.
talking about 70,000 dead people.
I don't know what that was.
France or
It was
something.
a quote from
exactly.
It
That
sounded
was
like
my
he was
reaction,
reading,
Lou.
drunkenly reading a history book or something.
Yeah,
I don't
more
know.
or
It was-
less.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
But thank you for using the number, at least. 805-991-BEER. But on to the news. There's been a lot that's happened. There was a video that was sent to me, and now it's an article that I'm going to talk about here while I was on vacation. Stone Brewing is suing Miller Coors over their Keystone Light cans and their branding of that beer. Stone Brewing is a fierce defender of craft beer. Just ask co-founder Greg Cook about his thoughts on craft beer versus big beer. But Greg Cook has announced that Stone's intention to sue Miller Coors is over the very blatant use of the word Stone in their Keystone branding. In a YouTube video, he goes into detail describing the various ways in which Miller Coors has used Stone as a very prominent piece of their beer marketing for Keystone. He contends that this move is intentional in order to create consumer confusion. In the world of beer, the name Stone is ours, Cook says. He claims it isn't a marketing stunt. This is a weird way to get publicity. We'd rather talk about our own beer. If you look at the video, he's holding up a can of Keystone Light up to the camera, and it's broken down, and it's probably meant to be, like a newer thing where there's all big text for everything online or whatever, but it breaks the word Keystone into two ways.
Yeah, and that
Stone
picture of him holding it where it just says Stone has been all over.
Oh, yeah, and it's super
media
prominent,
lately.
too.
Yeah.
And he's right. If you look at it and you don't know much about craft beer, you're going to think that is a Stone beer. Maybe it's their Keystone line. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens from that. But that's just one more mark in the craft beer versus big beer world.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was, genuinely a blatant use of the word to try to, use some of Stone's brand recognition to sell Keystone. But it is kind of funny to see.
Well, didn't they have that whole thing, that Keith Stone guy?
They had Keith Stone for a
I've
while.
read about that.
With the big stone billboards.
Yeah, it's always smooth with Keith Stone.
I mean, you got to protect your brand. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Well-
I just think it's funny how he off of social media for so long,
And then comes
and
back
he
with
was like a Luddite, and now all of a sudden he's like back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
I'm back on Twitter, people.
I'm back and I'm suing everyone.
and I still have the beard.
I still have the
Yeah.
beard.
He even said that this can all go away if they simply put the key back in Keystone.
Yeah.
And even like the font they have too, Stone is way more prominent. Key is kind of grayed out a little bit, and Stone is just boom, right in your face.
It is
on the
pretty
can.
prominent.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, that is a little suspicious.
Yeah. Now, I definitely wanted to talk about this because obviously it would spark some kind of conversation. But Lou, somebody like yourself, you deal in a lot of things of craft versus big beer or indie, however we're going to label it now. What are your thoughts on this?
On this particular case?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a mistake anyone's going to make more than once.
True.
That's very
Yeah,
true.
that's a good point.
Once you open that can.
Yeah, well, hell, even as soon as you buy it, the price.
That's true,
Yeah.
too.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, it's the kind of mistake that. Well, yeah, no, I'm going to stick with my original statement. You're only going to make that mistake
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Even at the end of the video, after they rolled credits or whatever, it was him sitting there going, "We had to pay for this Keystone. We had to buy the Keystone
I should buy
out
this
of the
can."
Stone budget." It's like, let's just consider this part of Miller Coors legal defense, legal fees.
Yeah, right?
But that was the only story that I really wanted to bring up because I know we have so much we need to talk about with Lou. I mean, you can't crowd this podcast with just some other news stories.
We're really building you up. I hope you live up to our listeners' expectations. No pressure. No pressure.
Well, you've been.
No, the problem is going to get me to stop. So.
Hey, that's fine.
Fair
That's
enough.
fine.
The audience agrees.
The hecklers have begun. They're nodding first.
So for anybody who may not know, Lou, you are one of the, I would consider, foremost beer journalists and whiskey journalists too, because you write a lot about whiskey as well.
do.
Beer first, though.
Yes, beer first. But you've been writing full time about beer and spirits for what, 20-something years, since '95, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into that? How did it start?
I was just really interested in it. I was a librarian. I joke that I failed at that because I was too loud. But I honestly
can see how that wouldn't work out.
At one point, some of the people in the library were shushing me. I'm not making that up. No, I got interested in beer pretty early on. Had my first stuff outside of the mainstream. Geez, I think I was 22 back in 1981. In fact, it was right around this time of year because I remember what day it kind of was. I don't remember the date. It was Holy Thursday. I remember
wow.
because the guy who bought the beers that night was Catholic and had just picked up his kids from Mass and dropped them off and then picked us up. He was one of my professors at college. It was a senior seminar we had, and he invited us to a bar I'd never heard of. I went to college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at Franklin and Marshall, and he invited two of us down to the Lauzeus Hotel, which was, I found out later, one of the best selections of beer in the country. In 1981, he had 125 beers, which was a lot.
Yeah.
They were almost all imports. But he picked out my first beer for me, and I kind of never really looked back. So I did that. I drank beers wherever I went. I worked for the Army for a while. They moved me around a lot. I think at one point I lived in 6 states in 7 years, and just looked for beer everywhere I went. And at one point I was out in the Central Valley in California, and I was drinking Anchor, I was drinking Sierra Nevada, I was drinking beers that don't exist anymore, and then moved back here, and things were a little different. Not much craft, a lot of Belgian, a lot of German, which was a pleasant, because I hadn't seen a Belgian since I'd left Lancaster, and I started working at a small pharmaceutical company here in the area, and there's chemists, and whenever there's chemists, there's home brewing. So we were home brewing. And I was getting beers. I had been reading everything I could get my hands on for years, and we had an early email system, and I started sending out a weekly newsletter. And somebody came in and laid this thing on my desk one day. It was a newsletter from the local beer store. And he said, this is a piece of crap. You can do better than this. And I'm yeah, I can do better than that. And so I wrote up a sample and took it over and dropped it off at the store. And I said, look, I really like what you're doing. I said, I'd like to do it for you. This one's free. If you like it, we can do more. And I actually wrote a newsletter for them for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it, I think the first one was $25, and we went up a little bit from there. It was just a front and back, But that was, my first story was about Saranac, and my second story was about Yingling, because there wasn't a whole lot else to do.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
man, I hit it right at the right time. Things really started picking up around here. But then, the pharmaceutical company was a startup that I was working for, and they folded after I'd been there 3 years. They had one drug, and it got turned down. So, there's not a lot of momentum there.
Talk about all the eggs in one basket.
Yeah, right.
So, I got laid off. I was laid off for about half a year, and I'm pushing it, trying to sell some writing, and then I got a temporary job for a bit, and by the time that ran out, I was writing full-time, and my wife's like, well, let's go for it. So, hats off to my wife, because she's the real reason I'm here. She encouraged me. She held things together because the first year sucked.
Yeah.
That was really, really hard.
Struggling writer, I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, and there wasn't a whole lot of market either.
That's true. Yeah.
Nobody was interested in printing the stuff except the beer magazines. And then I started selling some stuff, and I sold a couple pieces to the Inquirer here in Philly. Picked up a fairly regular gig, oddly enough, in the Chicago Tribune, and started writing for what was then Malt Advocate magazine, which turned into my mainstay. I was the managing editor there for 20 years. So, but that's how it all started. Sorry.
That's cool. No, don't worry.
The hard part's going to get me to shut up. So
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
a good problem
Those
to have
are
on a
the best
podcast.
guests.
Yeah. So if you started doing that with the newsletter, and then you got to the Chicago Tribune, you had that thing in there. How many do you currently write for now?
Mostly now I write for the Daily Beast. I do some stuff on and off for Whiskey Wash, ScotchWhiskey.com, all about beer. I'm a regular columnist. I'm working on, I've actually had a long-standing gig with Massachusetts Beverage Business, with a trade journal up in Mass, which is great. They're really cool to work for. They pay half decent, and they don't touch my stuff at all.
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
It's like a writer's dream.
Oh my God! I think they've done serious edits to my work twice in
Wow.
20 years.
Wow.
They're the best.
Are you still writing for the Full Pint also?
On and off. It's
Yeah.
just essentially whenever something hits Danny or hits me, I'll do something. They're more off the cuff, which is also fun. Who else? I think that I'm probably missing one that's going to be embarrassing, but no. The Daily Beast is my steady thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And there I write about mostly write about whiskey there, but whenever there's a beer thing comes, they have a bunch of other spirits and cocktails writers. They don't really have any other beer writers, so when a beer thing comes up, I get it.
yeah.
That's
great.
cool.
So you talked about the beginning of your journey with beer, and your book was actually part of the beginning of my journey with beer. I remember buying Pennsylvania breweries, and Rich and I photocopied the table of contents, and we would actually check them off as we went to them. And that was back in the day when I could say I was at all the breweries in Pennsylvania. Now it's impossible to even know about all of the breweries in Pennsylvania. So how were you approached to write? I also have the Virginia, Maryland, Delaware one, which I will admit we did not get to all of those.
Well,
we weren't quite as ambitious, but how did that project come to you?
It's a coincidence that we're drinking Sunshine Pills because Chris Trogner was how I got that job. I was writing a regular Mid-Atlantic column for Ale Street News at the time, and I mean, part of my gig was you called all the breweries. Well, not all of them. After a while, that got out of hand too. I actually kept a spreadsheet. Like, okay, I talked about them, which came in handy because every now and then a brewer would be like, "You never write about us." I'm like, "Actually, I wrote about you." You're ahead of the curve. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. That kind of thing. But yeah, I had actually just been talking to Chris about 2 months before I got contacted by the publisher. The editor at Stackpole Books, which actually doesn't exist as an independent label anymore. They got bought. But at that time, they were in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, on the other side of the river from Harrisburg. And the editor's son had gone to high school with Chris. And she knew he was in the beer business and said, we're thinking about doing a brewery book. Do you know anyone? And God bless him, he said, well, yeah, because he just talked to me 2 days before that. And so I ran up a sample chapter and sent it in and a proposal for how to lay it out. And I had, I think, one meeting with who turned out to be my editor for all the books, a guy named Kyle Weaver, who's now with Pennsylvania Heritage Magazine. I wrote a piece for him there, too. God bless. And, we laid out that format. What I did, I just looked at all the formats for brewery guidebooks that I'd seen in the previous years, took what we liked, added some stuff that I thought was missing, and left out some stuff that I thought was unnecessary. And we went with that, and I still think it's a pretty good format.
Yeah, for sure. I love the maps. That's like the best thing because that
was my dad actually, who is no longer with us. But,
this came at 2010?
Yeah.
I guess GPS was a thing back then, maybe.
The first one came out in 98.
There you go. Yeah. No GPS back then.
It was all MapQuest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You were printed out.
Yeah.
So if that was, if 98 and then 2010 was the fourth edition?
Fourth, yeah.
Do you have any plans on
Nope.
the fifth? Okay.
Nope.
I think
I just had my 59th birthday. That shit's for a younger man.
Well,
or woman.
How many people buy? I did just buy Brian Colsar's book, but I don't know how many people actually.
People are still buying it. And I have to say, from the other side, people are buying. Distilleries are still at a manageable number. People are buying those guides. Yeah. People like having a book.
No,
there is something nice about physically turning the page.
It is something about touching the paper and the smell.
It's bigger than a phone.
True, yeah.
Reading off a phone can be a pain in the neck.
That's very true.
Yeah, I've got my notes pulled up on the iPad here, and it's like this part of the screen.
Exactly. It's like an inch and a half wide.
Yeah.
It was fun. I was kind of paging through this before we got here, noticing all the breweries that aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I know so many have closed, but once you go through and you're like, oh, that's not there anymore. Oh, that's not there anymore. That's not there anymore.
When the fourth edition actually hit print, I think there were 14 left from the first one.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
And we tell ourselves, breweries weren't really going up. Of course, they are now, but oh no, breweries not going out of business. They're all growing. Well, they were still.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them were. Not good ideas.
Yeah.
No?
You still get those.
Oh, yeah.
We're still
at this point, nationwide, we're at over 6,000, I think. We hit that mark not too long ago. So, some are not going to be good ideas. Some have the staying power, but, it's interesting to see where it's going to go, especially, like I know you said you don't want to do another edition because you just hit your 59th birthday.
Yeah.
But it's such a rapidly changing landscape that even by the time that would go to print, you'd have so many that aren't there anymore or change to something else.
That's the other problem. Yeah. I would hate to have put in the. That was the worst. That was worse than missing some, doing them and then having them close before it hit print.
Before it even got out. Yeah.
So you did 3 books. You did this series. In this series, you did the Pennsylvania one, and then Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and then you also did the New Jersey one.
Well, I did New York.
Oh, and New York.
And I did half of New Jersey.
And half of New Jersey.
Yeah, Mark Haney actually did most of the heavy lifting there.
So this may be a lame and obvious question, but maybe there's a good story here. Is there one brewery that you visited in the midst of writing these books that really stood out?
That's a lot of breweries.
It is.
There's always got to be one good story, one memorable moment
Actually,
in the journey.
There's a bunch of good stories. I think one of my favorite trips was Buffalo.
Buffalo is a great beer town.
It was
At least now. I don't know what it was like when you were
my uncle
doing
and my
the book.
dad and I went up there in a minivan, and it was
Nice.
I don't know, January, February. It's like, why go to Buffalo in the summer?
You had chains on the minivan, I hope.
No. The lake had already frozen, so
all right.
snow
You
was
were
a
good.
problem, but it was cold. And we went out with a guy named Tim Herzog, who owned Flying Bison Brewery at the time. And Tim was a big Buffalo booster, and oh my God, we were still going at 3:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Just one bar after another, because that was one of the shticks with the book. We did bars as well, the best beer bars in the area, and Tim was on a mission, and we were going along with him.
Wow.
And and my uncle's just like, yep, okay. I mean, there have been times when I have looked at my uncle and thought, God Almighty, I'm glad he's 70, because otherwise I'd be dead. Holy crap, the man's a machine. But yeah, we were out till about 3 a.m, and then we got back to our room, this little cheese box hotel in Tonawanda, and there was a very active couple next door. And oh man, the uncle and I had both been drinking. My dad was kind of drifting off, and at one point, it had been going on a while. My uncle just like, he's my hero. Yes, I remembered that. That was
That's
an
memorable.
interesting night.
That's memorable.
Not quite the story I was expecting.
No, but
Love it.
A good one though.
We were in Buffalo a couple of summers ago. We stopped on the way home from Niagara Falls, and we went to a pizza place, and there was Cantillon in the fridge behind the bar. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
At a pizza place.
I love that.
At a pizza place in Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
I love it.
We went to a place in Nicholson, Pennsylvania. Really only notable because there's this amazing railroad viaduct there. It's a huge thing. And we were looking at antiques, which I never do. I don't know if I'd had a fight with my wife or what, but for some reason we went to an antique store, and she's looking around. She's happy, and I'm talking to the woman who owns the store, and she's telling us, she asked, what do you do? And I'm like, I do this. And she's like, oh, really? Well, there's a place down in town that has beer. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
They probably
'Cause,
had Keystone.
I'm out in the way. Well, that was the big sign on the
I'm
front.
sure it was,
Yeah. It was the Western Poconos, 8 years ago? Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So we go down to town, and there's that literally are. It was like they wrapped the bar in Keystone eggs. Wow. Got inside, and it's a plywood floor.
Oh, yeah.
Drop ceiling that they'd hand painted with house paint, and given up halfway back. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then I walk in the back because I wanted to go to the men's room, and I've stopped because in the back of the place there's these 6 taps, and there's Troganator, and there's Steenbruce Triple, and there's Allagash White, and I can't remember what the other 3 beers were. I'm just like, what the?
Yeah, right?
So I'm like, great, fine, I'm not going to fight it. So I had a Troganator, and I was in great shape.
I love Troganator. It's one of my favorite beers.
It's like
Troganator.
rays out of heaven at that point.
Yeah.
I drank it. I didn't think much of it. After that, just kind of moved along, and about 1.5 years later, I run into the Trogs distributor up in that area. I'm like, let me ask you something. I asked him, he just starts laughing. He's like, I don't know who the hell is drinking it, but they are one of my best customers. I go in there. Every time I go in there, nobody's drinking the stuff.
And yet,
It turns over in 3 weeks.
wow.
I love
That's
it.
crazy.
I was just...
I love
they're out
your
there.
description of the bar. That is like the quintessential rural Pennsylvania
Yeah.
dive bar.
Yeah.
The paneling, the drop ceiling, the paint, the Keystone
Yeah.
ads.
Yeah.
And I love that you can go into places like that and come across actual
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good beer. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's great.
Well, speaking of Troganator, and before we get to the beer that we're about to drink, and this could probably bleed into another topic. You're a man of the session ales, the session beers.
Yes.
one of my favorite beers is the barrel-aged Troegenator, which is probably north of 12-ish%.
It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's such a great beer.
Dan has his own unofficial sessionable range.
I was really hoping nobody would bring it up.
It's like 3 times what everybody else
So
is.
when-
Or 4 times.
When we first started the podcast years ago, this is 5 years ago at this point, I thought sessionable just meant it was something you enjoyed and can drink a lot of. So we tried, I think it was the first
It was Woot Stout.
Yeah, which was like
13%.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is pretty sessionable because I could sit there and drink it. Yeah, and then I got schooled
He
pretty
got
quickly.
schooled, yeah.
I was hoping I could escape.
Like
not
I
telling
always
that
say,
story.
you know what? Match me beer for beer, and then we'll play cards for your house.
All right.
Well, house.
I mean,
Wow,
we
you
rent
don't
the
mess
house.
around, man.
We rent our house,
That's
so go
true.
right ahead.
And they live in South Philly, so you
Yeah.
probably don't want it.
Yeah. But what did you pour for us? Steph?
So, and continuing the trend of PA beers, this is from Yorkolo Brewing in Mansfield, Pennsylvania, up by the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania.
Oh,
yeah.
that's like
Those
right at the
that did
border.
not know that we have one.
yeah, I've been there.
And this is a Friet. It is their Belgian-style quad ale, because that's what you do. You go from a Pils to a quad,
Of course you do.
because it's what was open. So I poured it.
Ooh.
That is nice.
Ooh.
That is really nice.
And I believe this was courtesy of another patron, Wolfgang.
Hey,
thanks,
thank you.
Wolfgang.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm imagining this, but there's like a molasses in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Molasses flavor that I'm
Oh, yeah,
getting.
Lots of like
yeah, like
plum.
a blackstrap,
Yep.
something
Yep.
darker and
It's super
wow,
tasty.
that's quite the label too.
Yeah.
That is an awesome label.
It almost looks like a Tired Hands label.
menacing guy.
It is reminiscent of something Tired Hands would put on a label.
Yeah.
I love the purple, but this wax is out of control. Do you see how thick this is?
That is crazy.
That was that's
is
a lot of
crazy.
wax.
So, Lou, what do you
Yeah, I was
think
gonna
of wax on bottles?
Tell us your thoughts on wax.
Are you a wax on or a wax off kind
I
of guy?
hate wax. I hate wax. I wish everybody would stop using wax. I have cut myself. I have dropped wax in the toaster.
Oh, wow.
Wax just needs to go the hell away.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
No one should have to work that hard to drink beer.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's
It's
a
the
neat.
same reason I don't eat crab legs.
It's a neat aesthetic.
It's pretty. That's about
looks
it.
cool, but
You
it
know,
does
do
nothing.
the
Not
Maker's
all of it
Mark
does.
thing
I mean,
where you
some
just-
of the wax doesn't even look that good.
That's true.
It looks
Yeah.
like they
It does-
dipped it in candle wax.
It doesn't always
which-
look that great.
Or crayons,
Yeah.
which is what you do. It's a lot cheaper to just melt crayons.
Milk crayons and dip it in. Yeah,
Just saying.
But it doesn't really do anything. Like it's not
No.
helping
It's
in any way.
It's an aesthetic. It's
to-
purely
yeah.
aesthetic.
Do you think it helps to keep oxygen out in any way?
If it does, it's like
Minute.
It's
less,
gotta be
less than half
negligible.
a percent.
I mean, that could be
Yeah.
like the only
That would be your
positive
only
thing.
actual practical reason, and
Yeah.
I don't think
yeah,
it would be.
really, you should just get a better capper.
Yep,
Yeah.
touche.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with corks either. Like, you can put a cork
Oh
in it.
no!
Yeah.
Freaking
Oh, here we
free
go.
will.
Uh-oh.
You open the cap and then surprise! You need a corkscrew
yeah.
too.
The cap
Really?
and cork. The cap and cork.
yeah.
One or the other.
That's
Come
a bait.
on, people.
That's a bait and switch right there. That's
Freaking
true.
John Stemler.
Yeah.
That is.
You're
That-
lucky you make safe word.
Yeah, free will's the reason I went out and bought corkscrew.
Yeah.
I don't
true.
remember. Where were we at? We were at someone's house where we took a bottle of Free Will and they were using a screwdriver and a screw to try to get the cork
Oh,
out.
we've done that. That's why I
Because
had
they
to buy
didn't have corkscrew.
We had blood and guts.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we're so excited to open this and drink it. Cap off. Oh, shit, that's right. It has a cork.
Yeah, so
oh,
we-
shit, we don't have a corkscrew.
there should be a warning
We
on
have
the cap.
screws. We have pliers. We have
Yep.
screwdrivers. We will make this happen.
Yep, and it worked. It took like 5 minutes, but it worked.
We don't drink a lot of wine at home. So
No, not
the
at all.
corkscrew isn't
I had
really-
I had a bottle of the Victory's 10th anniversary beer, the 10-year alt, in a Magnum with a. It took us half an hour to get it open. Half an hour and an electric drill.
Does it taste better when we have to work that hard?
Actually, I would say no. There's probably a tipping point. I'd
Should
say
have just savored it.
5 minutes, it tastes better. It took me 5 minutes to open that. Oh, I finally have it. Half an hour,
Just want to
it
toss
tastes
it over
worse
the house.
because now you never want to buy a beer
Exactly.
from that brewery ever again.
Exactly.
You're like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Oh, I see. I understand.
So if we were talking about the session beers, what's the ABV on this one? I'm assuming it's not session.
No, oh my God,
This
no.
is really up there.
10.5, Rich
Yeah.
knows.
Okay.
It's
It's a
not on the
triple,
bottle.
right?
10.5.
10.5.
So for anyone, your definition of a session beer is 4.5%, right?
My definition of a session beer, actually, I'd really rather avoid numbers, to
Okay.
be honest. I mean, I put a number in there
Me too.
because I knew people were going to ask for it.
Yeah.
And I also knew that people would ignore it.
Yeah.
You know, because I've seen session beer on shit that was 7.1%.
Or 13.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. That's just, well, no, that's stupid. You know, and I saw some other thing where the guy's like, well, you know, we weigh more now, so we could probably use more alcohol, so session's probably gone up. Like, okay, you also are missing the point. I just wanted to see, you know, it's like, it's like in programming. If you're writing fat, lazy code, you could write tighter code, but you don't have to because nobody cares, yada, yada. I wanted to see brewers actually get flavor out of a 3.8 beer because the Brits do it all the time.
Yes, exactly.
And those are some of the best
Czechs do
styles
it.
I've had
Yeah.
that are low ABV.
Yeah, and you can drink more of it. I mean, that was the thing. These the thing about if you drink like beer, you don't like to drink beer. You just like to pee more.
Yeah.
Well, I like to drink beer. I like to drink the beer. I don't want to like sip and these people are like, oh, I have a Russian Imperial Stout, but I sip it, and it takes me an hour and a half. I'm like, look, dude, if you don't like the beer, just say so.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, I can see-
drink a double whiskey faster than
Well,
that.
yeah, I can see arguments on both sides of the spectrum for it. Because if you have that Russian Imperial Stout, as you're drinking it, it'll warm up and you might get other flavors.
Sure.
Cool. But I understand your point of you want to drink the beer. You had a really nice quote, actually. You want a beer that facilitates the conversation, not dominates it. That's
Yes.
a fantastic way to put that. And I kind of agree. I like the big ABV beers, but they wind you pretty quickly. The lower ABV beers, you can have an entire night, and you're not going to hurt in the morning from them if you do it right.
Well, actually, I was thinking more in the terms of, we're sitting around talking about, how your kid did in school or how the Eagles just totally kicked ass in the Super Bowl or
Cough.
yeah. And then somebody's like, yeah, that's all cool, but you got to taste this beer. Okay, because then either that guy or that beer is getting kicked the hell out of my room. Okay, I want a beer that's good, but know your place, beer.
Know your place.
Yeah.
beer.
I
Know your
love
place,
it.
beer.
Know your place. Now, how do you feel about session beers sort of becoming session IPAs? 'Cause, to me, I feel
well, I
like
kinda
that's
dreaded
sort
that,
of
but-
become.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole. I mean, you've talked to brewers. You know what IPA stands for? Increases profits automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
You just-
especially if it's hazy.
Certainly does.
All you have to do is you don't. It's almost like you don't even have to make other beers anymore. Just call them a different kind of IPA.
Oh, you certainly
It's-
don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
know?
can make 3 IPAs, and that'd be the only thing you ever make, and you could probably be successful as a brewer.
Yeah. Make a bitter. Call it a session IPA.
Or
Make a porter. It's a brown IPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Change the hops every once in a while. Call it a limited release.
Yeah.
In cans,
even better.
have people line up down the block. That's all you got to do.
It's almost like we're back where we started.
Yeah.
And instead of different names for the same light lager, it's different names for the same ass load of hops.
Yeah.
Which I like an ass load of hops. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I like other stuff too.
Also, like variety. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
the
this
style,
is what really grates on me, being in this from the beginning, because, it was not about freedom to have an IPA. It was about variety. It was about not drinking the same thing every time. And they're like, oh, it's a different kind of IPA. Okay, it's a different kind of lager.
Yeah.
Big deal. I want everything. I want everything except Goza. Maybe I'm still.
I'm actually kind of with you on that.
Yeah.
I love a good Goza.
I do.
I
Well,
cannot.
when
I
I
just had-
find one, I'll let you know.
Platform did one with I don't know,
Shanghai
guava. Yeah, their Shanghai Noon is really good. I like a good Goza.
It
I
kinda
don't like a
reminds
bad
me
Goza
of,
though.
of what we used to say about Zima. It's actually pretty good if you put a Jolly Rancher in it. Well, then maybe you ought to do it
That's
that way.
like
instead
Corona.
of-
It's kind of good if you put a lime in it.
I kind of feel like anything's
Especially if you
kind of
jam
good.
it in hard enough that
Yep.
nothing comes out through the hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just don't smell it.
The only
Plug it up.
Goza I've ever enjoyed was a cucumber Goza, at which point I'm thinking, shouldn't I just have like a Hendrix, and get down to it? Because I don't know.
They are session beers though.
They are session generally.
saying, just saying.
Yeah. Although, of course, people have already done Imperial Goza.
Oh no!
Oh,
People
yeah.
done Imperial.
Now
Imperial
everyone
everything.
knows that Pilsners are by far my favorite beer style. But I love he's getting
Sorry.
He's getting fired up over there. You mentioned British beers, and we traveled to the Pacific Northwest. We do stop it. We traveled to the Pacific Northwest 2 years ago now, I guess it was. And I feel like in the Portland and Seattle area, there is this resurgence of British ales, which I kind of thought was coming to the Northeast a little bit right before the New England IPA kind of took over. And now they've sort of taken a back seat. I mean, luckily we can still go to like Bull's Head or Memphis Tap Room, and, you know, they'll usually have one on the hand pump. But it was really
we just
nice.
Say Bull's Head again?
Bull's Head.
I just like
Bull's Head.
I love that place.
We're going there next. Adam Avery's going to be there next Wednesday. We're going. It's actually 20 years since Rich and I met, and we already had planned to go to Bull's Head, and we're like, Adam Avery's going to be there. It's going to be even better.
Or he's going to be at a bar in Philly on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday.
He must be in the area then.
Yeah. Is he at Monk's?
No, not Monk's. It's City Tap House on Walnut Street.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. I was there the other night. I saw Black Panther. We stopped in for a beer there, and the bartender was telling me.
But I don't know. I would, like, for example, Machine House Brewing, and I don't know if you've been to Seattle, but
Yep.
Rich loves airplanes. So he was out in the parking lot watching all the Boeing planes. It was their 50th anniversary. I don't know. I'm probably saying the wrong year. So they were having this huge air show for every Boeing person. So he's out like taking pictures of planes. And I just
went down
sat
to the museum.
and I'm like, I want that pump. I want that hand pump. I just went down the line and had them all. And it was one of the best beer drinking experiences I've had, at least in recent memory.
Isn't there a lot to be said for focus?
Yes. Oh my
I
gosh,
really
for
think there
sure.
is. Yeah.
For sure. And I feel like on the East Coast, there are some breweries that were trying to do that. There's one that pops up, I'm sure, in all of our minds. But I feel like that their hands have been tied and they've been forced to brew other beers, and their focus has
And
gone away.
by other beers, you mean IPAs.
Well, yeah, but
Essentially.
and I get it. It's a business. And the bottom line, it's a business,
Yeah.
you know, and you have to make money, and I get that. But I just why is it that breweries on the West Coast seem to be able to flourish and do so well, focusing on one area, where here it doesn't seem like that's possible. I mean, I look like Forest and Maine and Stickman and all these breweries that originally started, and even Trillium that started really celebrating more Belgian style beers, and now they're all known for IPAs.
First off, there's more breweries out there,
That's true.
so there's more space for.
That's
a
very
specialist.
true. That's a good point.
Second, money's really a powerful lure. You know, I would put forth a brewery that I think keeps that Notch in Salem, because they're my guys, because they're all session all the time. Nothing ever goes over 4.5%. And they do classic styles with it. I mean, they have an IPA because they know they have to, but they have one. Okay, and everything else is lager, bitter. In fact, they have so many different. I mean, they've got Czech lagers you've never heard of. They just do a fantastic job. I mean, they were the first place I ever knew of that actually did a Grodzisky the right way. Did it with green malt. Didn't even kiln the malt. They were just crazy nuts. And they're wall to wall every weekend. So I think you can do it, but it takes the same kind of thing to make that I think it takes to make a really good sour, which is will. I mean, if you don't have the guts to stay the course, then just go ahead and make IPA.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys you're familiar with Sealands Grove, the little river pub up the river. So I'm up there.
Oh, they're framboise.
Yes. You know, now I don't know if it's true or not, but again, one of those stories from doing the book, Heather told me they actually lose money on that beer.
Wow.
Because there's so much beer wasted because they don't sparge, they don't do anything, they just like take it off, and anything gets pulped.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah. But she looks at it as a marketing expense because everybody loves it so much.
Yeah, that's true. You see it's on, and you're like, we're driving up there.
Going, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm up there on the solstice this past December for their anniversary. That's when they opened. This was, I can't remember if this is the 21st or 22nd. But it's all good, and I'm sitting at the bar, and Steve's there, and this guy comes up and wraps a somewhat drunken arm around him, and he's like, "You have to tell Steve to make a New England IPA."
Oh, jeez.
And Steve is like, it's like something he obviously really doesn't do. I'm like, what? And break his soul? I mean, you know, the guy. I mean, these places like that, they'll make a good IPA, but I mean, they might as well just call it. It pays the bills.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do remember a brew pub where the guy was talking about the food. A customer to come in, I don't know, like 2 weeks after they were in, and says, "Looking at your menu, you don't have jalapeno poppers. Everybody's got jalapeno poppers." And I remember, and the manager's like, "Yeah, look, why don't choose? Because everybody has them."
Right.
You know.
That's
This is the second time a conversation on this podcast about New England IPAs has turned into an analogy of fried snack foods.
There's my daughter has got me hooked on the singer named Jen Wigmore, and she's got a song called Black Sheep, and there's a line in there, "Everybody's doing it, so why the hell should I?"
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good point you make about staying the course. Like if you're going to specialize in if you want to do, English styles, if you want to do all sour beers, if you want to do,
Hold on. Can I just point out that every other beer I brought is over 10%?
You really, yeah. There is kind of a...
My fridge is empty right now.
Remember
I like how-
the whole know your audience thing?
I'm like, this is so the opposite.
5.9.
5.9?
See,
Maybe we should drink
that's
that
high
next.
for him.
Yeah, right.
I know, it's good I brought the Pilsner.
I love
or
how-
Lou might have left.
No, come on.
You literally brought anti-Lou Bryson beers.
You guys do remember I drink whiskey.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
It's
That's
a matter
true.
of balance.
That's true. That is very, very true.
Oh, and all these guys like, "Oh, you can start talking about session whiskey later." I'm like, "No, you don't have to. It's called a cocktail."
That it's called a cocktail. It's a very
Come
good.
on.
Yeah.
It's called a cocktail.
I just want to point out that I wrote down "It pays the pills." I think it's a very good.
There you go.
It pays the pills.
Let's brew it.
Let's do it.
It's always a new beer name waiting to be
Yeah,
copyrighted.
Wayne's pretty good with the beer names.
You're all about the puns.
I do like
The
a good
puns.
pun.
Hey, puns are where it's at.
I do like a good pun.
So what should we drink next? I have
Yeah, what should we drink
this. We
next?
should probably do. This is Imperial Stout and Buffalo Trace barrels.
Jesus.
Wait.
With ancho
Drink
chilies.
this shit before we can't
Right.
taste
Yeah,
it.
that's a good point.
Rich, where's the bottle
Jesus.
opener?
Oh, I got my keys.
Is there a cork under that cap?
There better not be.
I don't think so. It doesn't look
No,
like
there
it.
isn't.
Ooh, this is pretty.
It is pretty.
What is this one?
It's beer.
Well, obviously.
It's ardent raspberry.
Ooh. Rich, audience beer.
You interrupted the man's wings.
I'm going to be polite and say if it's sour, I'll just pass it.
All right.
Okay, fair
All
enough.
right.
Thank you anyhow.
No worries.
Rich will drink it.
I heard it goes well with wings.
Busted on his sessions. I do not like sours.
What?
Well, sours are,
Sorry,
love
you're
'em or
allowed
hate
to
'em.
not like something.
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste.
It
No, I
is.
agree
true.
with that.
Ooh.
That's another story
I
for another time.
generally,
You're fair,
I mean,
sour.
for about 2 years there, I was starting to think, geez, I don't like sours. And then I had a Bone Creek. I'm like, I don't like mediocre sours.
Yeah.
I like good sours.
Good sours,
I like
yeah.
good sours.
Yeah, one of my first real true experiences with sour beers was at Pope Pub on Passion
Yeah.
near you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Philly Beer Week 20. What year did we start doing this? 13. So it may have been the year before, probably 2012. And they were doing a sour brunch. And I mainly went there because they have really awesome vegan food on the brunch menu. But we sat at the table that was right by the chalkboard beer list that's in the back. And I just remember looking and I'm like, what is all of this stuff? And I ordered one, and then I ordered another, and then I ordered another, and I'm like, I like this. It was amazing.
Yeah, this is good. And see, now, if this would have been something you started me on with sours, I would have liked it
Sorry.
right away.
Somebody out there needs to make a compilation of every time Dan has said that.
Our audio
Every
guy,
time-
Dan, should do that.
Every time we have a good sour, Dan is like, if this is the first sour I had ever had, I would have liked them to begin with.
It's true.
No, it's a very good measurement. I'm glad that you have that sort of yardstick in your back pocket to measure all sour beers against.
This is pretty damn good.
It is really good.
Have we said what it is?
No, I was waiting for
No.
you to check it in.
Sorry. It's Ardent American Sour Ale with raspberries. Ardent Craft Ale sent me this as a sample. God bless them.
Thank you, Arden.
Yeah, thank you, Ardent.
And thank you for bringing it, Lou.
Yeah, yeah. This would fall in the I like this. This is good.
I like this a lot.
Yeah. It's not the thing I don't like about a lot of American sours is that they're insistent, one note, shouty, and this has got some layers to it. You
It
know?
really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like the freshness of the raspberry.
Very
It tastes
much
like
so.
you're chewing into an actual fresh off the vine raspberry,
yeah.
and not that
It's nice and
syrupy, fake
sharp up front, but then it sort of
mellow.
fades
Tapers
into,
off.
and it kind of gets like a little more funky. In the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice. Yeah, there's a
Very
lot going on.
pleasant
Yeah.
linger.
Yeah, it's not just sour. It does have some funk to it, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lou doesn't know how to check in fast.
He's taking too long.
I was trying to be patient, but you're taking too long, so
Oh,
I'm going to
please.
beat you to the punch.
Doesn't Untapped have a thing where you can like scan the barcode?
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
barcode.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say yeah, but I like to type it.
Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of indie beers, craft beers, whatever we're
Found
going to
it.
call them, they wouldn't have a barcode on it anyway. So the crowd that they're already trying to get as their main user base can't use that feature.
Right.
Oh, I didn't beat you. You beat me by 15 seconds.
I was going to say, he put his phone down already.
I would thought I was.
Well, you know
thought
what
that he
happened? I
gave
couldn't.
up.
I can't type and talk at the same time. I'll admit that.
Steph's gotten pretty good at that.
Although, actually, I should. I can't thumb and I can.
Type.
Right,
Oh
right.
yeah, like on a
I
phone
can't
interview. Boom.
Thumb type.
I like it.
Phone type.
I like it.
Takes too much brain.
Too much brain. All right, so the blog is no more.
The blog is no more.
I'm
It's
really,
dead.
really
I
sorry to
tweet
hear that.
and I Facebook.
But you also had a political blog. Is that still a thing?
That is still around. The why the
Why?
PLCB
I mean, it's not
should
like
be
there's
abolished.
anything interesting or divisive going on in the world of politics right now.
No, this is a very focused political blog. I only have one cause. I want the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board to go away.
Yeah.
We are one of the most controlled states. All wine and liquor, well, practically all wine and liquor sales are a monopoly of the state. The main exceptions being, the stuff that's made here. So you can go to Pennsylvania. Actually, now there's we actually have a liquor law that other states are envious of for a change. You can go to a Pennsylvania winery and buy stuff. I mean, their wine, you can buy it from other Pennsylvania wineries if they sell it. You can buy it from Pennsylvania distilleries, breweries, cider makers, and meaderies. They can sell all of it, and they can have a satellite store off their original store,
right.
which has led to this really brilliant guy out in Pittsburgh who has a liquor store downtown where he sells all Pennsylvania booze. It's the first privately owned liquor store in Pennsylvania
Good for him.
since repeal. And I'm so proud of him.
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool.
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Yeah.
And, eventually other state producers like a distillery in New York will be like, excuse me, Granholm says that's not fair. And they'll have to open it up.
Yeah.
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 I see the hole in the armor now.
Yeah, right. There it is. There it is.
But I mean, things have changed. I know sometimes, as soon as you start writing a blog, you get hecklers. You get people like, "Oh, your blog sucks," and we would get comments from, I assume, people. The main opponents to this are the people who work at the state stores and their union. Which just goes to show how screwed up this is. The managers are unionized. I'm like, what? Your management, you're not, but they have their own union. Okay. Anyway, I'd get emails from these guys like, oh, your traffic's down. You're not getting anybody reading your blog. I'm like, oh, yeah, you know who is? People in Harrisburg and people at the newspapers. We'd bring up something, and 2 weeks later, it'd be popping up in the Pittsburgh papers and the Philadelphia papers and the Allentown papers. I'm like, yes. Because I'd find stuff that makes you go, what? Yeah. The Pennsylvania State Police are not allowed to set up stings in state stores. Not allowed to.
Really?
So, yeah, when they say they don't have any arrests for underage sales, I'm like, well, no,
they can't.
Who's going to arrest them?
It's literally impossible.
And that we had that, and about 3 weeks later, it showed up in the Pittsburgh papers because people out there read our blogs. I mean, we now at the point, they just email me directly saying, what's up with that? I'm like, well, it's like this. And I'm like, oh, really? The cool thing is, there's apparently still an impaneled grand jury investigating PLCB corruption in Harrisburg, a federal grand jury.
Whoa.
Yeah, which, not a lot to talk about, but I know people who've been called in to testify, and it's still open. They found a senior LCB executive guilty on, I don't even know what the hell the charges are. There's some kind of like fraud by honest sale, which sounds crazy.
That is a weird.
I don't even know what the hell that is. But they found him guilty over a year ago, and he still hasn't been sentenced.
Excessive honesty.
Which I assume means he's singing like a birdie somewhere, which gives me hope. So I don't know. I mean, a lot has changed. A lot more has changed than at any other time. I mean, I was born in Pennsylvania in 1959, and there has been more changed in the last 6 years, probably, and all the time before that.
It's interesting. Like, we've been doing the podcast for 5 years now, and I know, like, in the course of the time that we've been doing it, there has been a lot of progressive movement.
We got rid of the case law.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah, and that was really huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it has been, like, the last 5 or 6 years, there has been a lot of positive change.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I'm still struck by how pathetic it is that we're happy that we can buy a six-pack,
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, in 2014, I went to L.A. for a wedding, and I was blown away that I could walk into a grocery store in Orange County, and they had all sorts of booze right next to the Cheetos.
And what blows my mind is, like,
but look at all the dead bodies in the streets.
I know, right? It's
pigs flying around the sky.
Anarchy.
Right.
You can't buy different kinds of alcohol in the same place. Like, that's another weird thing.
You can buy beer and wine if you're lucky enough to get a grocery store.
But like beer, wine, liquor,
unless
cider,
it's Pennsylvania.
meat, unless it's
now.
That's what I mean. Pennsylvania, some grocery stores have wine.
No, I mean if it's made in Pennsylvania.
If it's made in Pennsylvania.
No.
Oh, well.
No, if they buy and this is the weird thing, if they buy a restaurant license, they can sell wine and beer from anywhere.
Then all bets are off.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the unintended consequence of that is liquor licenses are getting really freaking expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because they started breaking some out of escrow. They had something, I want to say, like 1,200 licenses that weren't being used. Mm-hmm. So somebody dies, the business goes under, it winds up. Anyway, there's always been rumors in Lancaster County that some Mennonites just buy them to take them off the market so people can't open a bar.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So they're breaking all them out of escrow by saying, essentially if they aren't out of escrow within a year, you give them up, you forfeit them.
Yeah.
And they're putting them up for bid. I mean, there's places like I think Wise paid over $500,000 for one.
And those are determined
nuts.
by population.
Yeah, and supposedly it's 1 per 3,000 per county.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, as I understand it, that's like not so all over the state because there's places where the population is going down. There's too many. There's places where the population is going up, and there's not enough.
Right. No.
Like Chester. I mean, Chester County, it's just crazy because the population keeps going up because everybody keeps moving there because I have no idea why.
Because something.
Yeah.
So related to this conversation, we actually have.
I'm sorry, we really wandered there. It's just
pulling us back on.
Ask my daughter. It happens every time somebody says PLCB.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right.
That's fine.
We actually have a listener question, and I have to give you some background on this. Recently, Owls of Hamden Pizza Boy Brewing Company posted. A decision by the PLCB that was sent, a question that was sent in from a local Central PA person, and basically the conclusion of the PLCB's letter said that the general rule is no alcohol may be sold in Pennsylvania unless the seller holds a license issued by the PLCB. And the liquor code defines sale of alcohol broadly, including any transfer of liquor, including wine, alcohol, or malt, or brewed beverages for consideration. Therefore, an exchange of a bottle of beer for another bottle of beer would be basically considered a sale and is not permissible. So limiting the participation in a beer swap to members of a mug club could also constitute a sale of alcohol, assuming that it's a mug club, yada, yada, yada. But then it also goes on to say basically that like bottle shares and such like that would be considered illegal. So our listeners said, they of course are quite familiar with your website and your blogs on the PLCB. And this listener also mentioned that there's a blog on your website about laws for giving booze as gifts. Mm-hmm. So they were interested to know about beer trading and bottle shares, and if you have any opinions on the legality of said undertakings.
Well, the first thing you have to know is never ask the PLCB anything, because no, literally. I mean, I've actually heard. Do you guys remember when Memphis Taproom got busted?
No.
Okay, they got busted for selling beer that wasn't registered in the state. Okay. I'm not making this up. 4 armed BLCE agents showed up and was like, and they showed up. They showed up the day
Did this happen in the 1920s?
So why were they armed?
I want to say this is about 10 years ago.
Armed agents.
Yeah.
It showed
Wow.
up
Tommy
just,
guns.
and I'm sure
Were
it
they
was
wearing pinstripe
strictly a
suits?
coincidence. It showed up the morning that Pliny the Younger went on draft.
Oh,
God.
imagine that.
Yeah. So they also went to two other places owned by the same partners. I can't remember if one was Resurrection or anyway, like three different places, all owned by the same partners. The Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement, essentially, if somebody calls in a tip, an anonymous tip, they have to go do something about it. Like they feel that they have no. So somebody dropped a dime on these guys when it's almost certainly a competitor. Anyway, so it all winds up in Harrisburg. They have legislative hearings on this shit, right? So of course I went up. This was I took a bag of popcorn and. Brendan Hartranft is sitting there testifying. The owner at Memphis is sitting there,
former podcast guest,
testifying to the legislature, and one of the legislators, I can't remember who the hell it was. They all look, one of the guys in suits said,
With a Tommy gun.
Why didn't you just clear this up by inquiring with the PLCB? Didn't your lawyer tell you to just check with the PLCB? So actually, my lawyer advised us not to contact the PLCB. Because the thing is, once they issue a ruling, then it's illegal. If you don't ask them...
It's
It's kind of like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's illegal or not
Yeah.
because the thing is, it's written into the damn regs that if they issue a ruling, it only applies to the person who asked.
What?
Doesn't apply to the other licensees.
So there's no such thing as like a
and
precedent?
if another
Like-
licensee, there is no precedent.
What?
If another licensee asks the same question, they may give a different answer, and that's not a problem.
Wow.
Do you know why it's legal? Because they have their own courts.
Yeah.
They have
So
their
if-
own courts. They have their own regs. They have their own police force.
So if they rule against
I should have warned you not to ask about this.
No, this is the best part.
So if you and I separately host bottle shares of sorts, and
Yes.
they deem yours to be illegal, and then a week later mine not to be, does my ruling then apply to you, or
Nope.
yours was still
No,
illegal?
it's just-
so
it's
it's
a-
not retroactive then.
Well, and the other
They're
thing
just
is-
separate.
You're into
a
yet
whimsical
another gray
dictatorship.
area because neither of us are licensees, and the only binding opinions the LCB can issue are to licensees or wholesalers or producers.
so as long as you're doing it in your own house.
I would say if you're doing it in your own house and they show up, I would want to hear probable cause, and I'd really want to know why
Right.
they
Yeah.
picked you out.
Right.
Because if you're doing it at a restaurant, for example, like if they have a BYOB,
Yeah, that gets a little-
then you're dealing with their
Yeah. I mean, I have...
lock the doors, close the blinds.
I
just do it
have
at
in
home.
the past, as a favor, transported beer in my car from a brewery to an account because I was going there anyway. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take it over. That's illegal.
Yeah.
I should have like the magnetic sign on the side of my car that says I'm an official conveyance
yeah.
for.
And a bright orange light flashing, warning, alcohol in this car. Warning, warning, children look away.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's the thing. It's the whole one of the things that drives me crazy about this whole thing is the arbitrary nature of it.
Yeah.
Because they can issue a ruling, and it's not a precedent. It's a one case ruling.
It's like this is what we're feeling like today, and we don't like the way you look.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, here's another thing: they can delist you anytime they want. If they're
Right.
selling your liquor or your wine, they're just like, we're not going to sell that anymore. And you're like, why? It's selling. Well, it's not really meeting our goals, but it's like, nah, we're done.
we're just not.
And it's it's because the rep's kid beat up their kid on the or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I mean, I was indirectly responsible for that happening, and the company that got delisted was not happy with me at all, and I can't blame them.
Yeah.
But they are petty, they are vindictive.
It's weird. It's weird that like all of that. I feel like it all grows out of the fact that like the state was way back founded like very conservative groups, very religiously conservative groups, and so alcohol was regulated in weird kind of archaic ways for a very long time. But then it creates this political system that's become
can I correct
so
you there?
Okay, yeah.
Because it was actually done by one of our most progressive governors.
Okay.
Yeah, Gifford Pinchot. He just
Okay.
had a real hard on for alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but he was. I mean, he was. I mean, a member of the Progressive Party.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
no,
But
and
it
he was.
just that one.
He was ardent environmentalist. I mean, there's a huge national forest out west named for him. There's a state park here. Great guy.
Right.
Just a little bit crazy on the
about
alcohol thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when was this? Like when he was
Right after repeal.
Oh, so
Yeah,
okay, so it wasn't
34,
that
yeah.
long ago.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, because I just feel like
Oh no! Before that, we were some of the biggest boozers there were.
I guess yeah.
Oh
okay,
yeah,
okay.
all the Germans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. I just feel like it's created this entrenched political system that
Oh, for
only
sure.
still exists because it has existed for so long and has consolidated so much power into itself that
And money.
yeah, and that even now in in a modern era where like it's unheard of for these weird laws to be in effect, they are just because there's so much power behind keeping them there. Like there's no good reason
Yeah.
for things to be.
I remember when I first started getting involved in this. I was talking to a beer wholesaler, and he's like, "Yeah, we've actually, and he's talking about the malt beverage distributors. They had done polling. Over 90% of it was 89% of Pennsylvanians supported getting rid of the case law.
Yeah,
Why did we still have it? Don't know.
yeah,
Must be the tavern owners.
because it was benefiting people who had the power to keep it in place.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all, the legislators are all terribly convinced that if they vote to loosen up restrictions on alcohol, that every religious whack job and every safety Nazi progressive type will show up and vote against them.
Yeah.
Which, probably
not going to happen. Yeah,
No.
it's not.
They're much more worried about other weird
It's
shit.
2018. It's not a hot button issue. Like,
Yeah.
alcohol just is. Like, don't
Alcohol
worry
just
about it.
is.
Like, I mean, it's not. It's not like.
Yeah, I think they
something
realize
people
that there are
argue
other
about.
scary things to worry about.
Exactly.
Well, Steph passed around another beer to us, and
Well, we were already on the sour train, so
Might as well.
I still had a bottle of Wild Elf in the fridge. This 2017 Wild Elf.
I am quite all right with that.
Because we haven't had enough not session beers tonight.
Well, what does this one clock in at?
11.
Oh,
Yeah!
jeez.
So there you go.
Oh, I haven't had this in a while. This is really good.
I remember. Was it? When did this first get released? When was the first iteration?
I think
of it?
2016.
It was
I
pretty
think
recent,
this was
yeah.
only
Yeah,
the
it's
second
pretty
time.
recent.
It hasn't been around that
So
long.
I had heard so much about it, and I really wanted a bottle of it. I couldn't find it. One day, I'm just randomly shopping at Acme, and I stop over in their beer section, and boom, there it is.
Isn't that
for
the
like,
best?
For like $12 for the bottle. I got to mention Acme.
You love your Acme.
Oh, Acme.
So about a year and a
Checks
half
made payable,
ago,
too.
you wrote an article on, I guess it was, the Daily Beast, Craft Beer's Looming Crisis.
Not my headline, but yeah, that was my
It
pick.
sort of, I guess it pointed out that craft beer has become some very serious issues going on. A large increase in brands, an overwhelming selection of styles, to breweries opening at a rapid pace. Bottles are being left on the shelf. Whether they're going old or going bad. So, do you think that the craft beer bubble has begun to burst?
I would, before I say anything, I do not believe it's a bubble. A bubble implies there's nothing under it, and there's definitely something under this. Do I think there's another 1996, 97 style correction coming? Yeah.
Correction.
And I think there's one coming in craft spirits as well. I think they're ready for their first one. Yeah, I mean, I stole that from the stock market thing. A correction is, I think, a drop of 10%.
Okay.
And I think if we lost 600 breweries in 6 months,
that would.
that'd be a correction.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Well, and I think generally it's the idea that something is overvalued to a point where it has to come back to what it's really worth.
I think the only reason that so many of these places are surviving is because they've been opening in new markets.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of them, but the growth has been good enough that you can open your little 1-barrel, 2-barrel system, and some of these guys are still I can't believe people still open with a 1.5 barrel system.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a slower way to go bankrupt.
What was
And a lot more work.
what's the vegetable hunter system? Well, how big are they? It's super small.
Oh yeah,
It's-
but they're a restaurant first,
Right,
that just
but still.
added a brewery.
Yeah.
It's not like the brewery is keeping
that's
them
a
in
different
business.
model, definitely.
But still, I completely get your point.
Actually, speaking of models, the taproom thing.
yeah.
That's-
Well, and that's and I
Yeah.
and we've said that before in the show. Is I feel like that is that is the way to. You can't open a production brewery now and expect to get even like big regional success. You have to open a destination.
Yeah.
It has to be a tap room. It has to be a brew pub. It has to have a reason to go there for the beer first.
Yeah.
And then maybe the distribution comes, which hasn't been the way, I think, historically, the path to success that it is now.
No. Although, I mean, I remember, like, again, back in the really early days, that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember I was just talking about this with some friends, and we were laughing about it. Legend Brewing in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
When Legend first opened, they had a 9-seat bar and 3 tables, and they had, I want to say, 5 beers and a menu with 3 things on it. You could get chili, or you can get an omelet, or you could get a chili omelet, and that was that was it. And you know, I mean, that's not a lot different from the tap rooms you're seeing now. And now they've got like a 300-seat brew pub upstairs, and it's really great. And it's got like a big deck, and it looks over the city, and they have movies out there, and like people go and you know what? They reopen that little tap room down below and serve chili omelets one day a year, and the place is freaking packed.
It's nostalgic.
Yeah. I mean, here in the city, I love Dock Street for that. Dock Street makes me think of what it was like in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, concrete floor, you know, the pizza oven's right there. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We recorded in a tiny booth on a Friday night.
remember that.
Shoved in there. We had to leave half of our equipment in the car
That
because we
was-
couldn't
yeah.
fit.
That was a while ago now. Yeah,
That
that
was.
was definitely a
Those
memorable
good
night. That was
times.
fun. Yeah, Dock Street's awesome.
So I always thought, because, you know, I have this, damn it, if you're going to open a brewery, you should make good beer. That was always my thing.
Oh, there's.
I always thought that,
that's crazy talk.
you know, once breweries started to close, that it would be the breweries that were making the shitty beer. And
No.
that makes sense. You can't make good beer, then your brewery shouldn't stay in business. But that's not the,
That's
the
not what
case at
happened in
all.
97.
There are some breweries that make really awesome beer and just can't make money.
Well,
And
it's because they're not good business people.
well, yeah, that's the thing.
marketing, the
you
hype,
have to be.
yeah.
There are some really great businesses that make really shitty beer, but they're doing quite well.
I can't address that. I never go to those places more than once.
Wait,
I
I was
going to
say you have you have nothing to say. Lou Bryson has nothing to say.
no comment.
Seriously, I mean, if the beer's no good, I just don't go back.
No, and I'm the same way. I used to give them a second chance. That used
Yeah.
to be my rule. You make me pay for shitty beer,
Too
I'll
many
never come
places
back.
now.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
you're right. There's too many other options.
Yeah.
And not just breweries. I mean, there's enough really great beer bars and
Yep.
bottle shops and other places that I can go to get
You
great
can't
beer. But
really afford to open a brewery and allow yourself a grace period of adjustment like that
No,
anymore. Like
usually-
you
No, you
have to
can't.
be on
Right.
top of your game
You're
on
right.
day one.
Yeah,
you're
the
gonna
way
open,
the
you're
consumers
right.
are clamoring for
Yeah,
it. You're right.
people
you
are
gotta
not
be
coming
making
back.
3 IPAs the first day.
That's exactly
First
it.
day.
And they better be dank. They better be hazy. They
Yep.
better taste like grown-up orange juice.
How many
Gee.
listeners do you think we lose every time we have this same conversation?
All the ones that we don't want listening anyway.
I will
No,
sign
I'm just kidding.
I will
No.
sign an IPA loyalty pledge if you
Some of
need.
my favorite
I'll do
people
that.
love hazy IPAs, and I don't judge them.
You're
for
allowed to
that.
like what you like.
Yeah, you are.
It's whatever.
Absolutely.
Not when it takes my Pilsner off the
That's
tap
true.
list.
That is-
when I
yeah.
go to Stickman and the Pilsner's on, but he has 6 freaking IPAs on.
Hazy
You better believe it. I'm going to
IPAs.
give him shit about it.
Holy crap.
It's like religion. You can believe whatever you want, just don't try to convert me. And when it starts getting in the way of what I want to do, then there's a problem.
Well, again, I'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about the cherry in this beer right now?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
The tartness and I don't know, but the Grand Cru, like that took me somewhere else this year.
Dan
Gee.
is
I
still
know,
bitter
Dan has
about
no
that.
hot. I have one bottle left, but it is for my brother. I am sorry, it is not for you. So anyway, can we talk about the cherry in this beer?
Yes.
It is super amazing.
I
I
can
know
feel-
we're back to Trogs. I doubled
I
Trogs
can feel
tonight.
my gout just wasting away with the cherry.
Anyway, seriously, you need to
was
drink
good.
more creeks.
That's a good.
You
that's
would
a very
get
good
rid of
point.
your gout and enjoy a good buzz.
I can do that. Those are
I
two
think
very
we've
positive
just
points.
solved your life problems.
Does it have any warnings about gout on the side?
No, I'm just looking. I mean, I'm getting a lot of wood, and I wanted to make sure that they actually shut up. Shut up. Yeah.
That's not something you say when we're drinking at 11%. Maybe we should have stuck with session beers for tonight.
You know, it's a whiskey thing. We talk about the wood all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of, I know that Dan is sort of into whiskey, and he drinks some, I guess, are good whiskeys. And
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not a booze person.
Ringing
I drink,
endorsement there.
Yeah, right.
I do a
I act
shot
like-
of Jaeger Christmas, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
beer the rest of the year for me. But craft spirits are becoming a thing. It's sort of like a new trend for some people. So since many of our listeners are craft beer drinkers, if a craft beer drinker is interested in getting on the whiskey train, what beginning steps or advice would you give them?
Wow. Okay, so for all the not courageousness I may have displayed when you asked me about bad beer, I'm just going to come right out and say there are still not a hell of a lot of really good craft whiskeys.
Okay.
There are some.
Okay, so maybe not craft whiskey. Maybe just whiskey in
Maybe
general.
not craft whiskey. There are exceptions. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the one that's less than 10 miles from here, which is Dad's Hat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've met Mr. Dad Hat. His name is
Mr. Dad.
Thank you. I am not a whiskey drinker, but that was a life-changing experience when I had. He came to our homebrew clubs a few years ago, right when he was getting started, and literally, like a boss, opened a bunch of bottles and just passed them around the table, and we're all like, anyway.
So, the thing about that is I don't feel bad saying, after having said there's not that many, and then saying the local guy's actually pretty good, because when I was working at Whiskey Advocate, I picked them as the craft whiskey of the year about 3 years ago, and I had actually held off for a year because I didn't want to look like a homer. But by then it was just, it was compelling, and it is. It's really good stuff. That said, the thing I always tell people when they're going to be starting to do whiskey, Irish whiskey is really approachable.
I think that's how I
Is
started.
that what they put in Irish coffee?
Yes.
I've had one of those, and that was really good.
Yes.
There was one that I had. I forget the name of it, but it was an Irish whiskey liqueur. And it was extra sweet, and it was just like to get the feel of the whiskey that was there, but to not be super overpowering for somebody who didn't have it. And I think that's what got me more into it. Like I'd had Seagrams and crappy whiskey before.
Jamesons and Tullamore
Yeah,
Dew, those are Irish.
Yeah, I've had like some mainstream ones. But
Was it the
Only
knot?
ones I know.
was that?
The knot?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would know it if I heard it, but I can't think of what it is.
Yeah.
It was only like $20-$25 for the bottle, but it was really good. And since then, I've tried to get more into it just to know what I'm talking about. I still don't know the first thing about what I'm talking about with it, but I know some brands that I like.
There's a book you could get.
So I've heard.
Thought I'd mention that.
Actually, it is going on my wish list. Cough.
And what might that book be?
Tasting Whiskey by this guy Lou Bryson.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, are any of your books on Audible?
I was actually gonna ask that.
although I gotta say, I am a cantor at my church choir. I did the voiceover on Victory's Parksburg Brewery tour.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I could do this, and they're just like, no, we don't really think it's a good fit for Audible.
Oh,
Yeah,
tell
well.
people to go to audibletrial.com/beerbusters and get one of your books.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. I was like, can I bring that up?
Absolutely.
Put that in
Everybody's happy.
So I sent Rich downstairs to get draft beer because I thought it would be a good transition.
They do draft beer really well here.
Yeah, and I know that you also have an opinion on draft beer. And
I do.
I've always been the person, I'd prefer it on draft and then give me a can and then a bottle. Unless it's the kind of shit that we're drinking tonight, of course.
Yeah.
So what is it about draft beer that makes it, I don't want to say superior, but better?
Well, a couple of things. First, I remember talking to one of the brewers at Yuengling years ago, a guy named Jeff Tito, and I was talking to him. I said, so what is it with packaging? And the guy just starts screaming. Well, not, but
It's like a Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, my
What's
God.
it about packaging? Sorry.
so
What's
pissed.
with this packaging?
And he goes over, he says, you see that wall? You see that wall? I'm like, yeah. He says, I brew the beer over here. It takes me a day to brew it. And then I send it to the fermenters, and it ferments for another 3 weeks. And then I age it for another 2 or 3 weeks. I send it through that wall, and they fuck it up in 30 seconds. And that's...
Wow.
Yeah, packaging is packaging is where you're going to screw it up, either with air or heat or jostle. Draft does the least to the beer. Because at least, in America, it's not getting pasteurized, it's not getting heated, it stays cold. It goes in the keg at the same pressure that it's coming out of the, they call it the sow, that's where it's all coming from.
Right.
And it's shipped cold, it stays cold, it goes in, they hook it up, they run it out. Bing, done. Assuming the bar does a decent job.
I was going to say, because
that
there's
was
a
gonna
lot
be
more
my
maintenance that goes into maintaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to a brewery or a brew pub, typically it's the brewer or the brewing staff that
taking care
is
of that.
maintaining or
Right.
taking care of the beer lines.
Right.
And you go to your trusted bars that you know the
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
But I always hesitate, especially those places
Well,
that
yeah.
have like 50, 100 tap lines. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Well,
I know how much work it is to clean one beer line.
I've talked to the guys at the Yard House. They're insane.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my
That's
God.
good to know.
Good.
Yeah. Because they're running, some of their places are running over 200.
Yeah.
But they have every single freaking wrinkle on cleaning taps that there is. There was a place I went to, my wife and I, when we first got married, we were living in Waterbury, Connecticut. And there was a town down the road, Naugatuck, and we stumbled on this place called the Old Corner Cafe. They had 6 taps and no bottles. That was it. They had a Guinness tap, they had a rotating Spaten tap, and then they put whatever they wanted on the other 4 taps. And I got talking to the owner one night. He said he had bought it from this old guy, Bailman? I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. But
Sounds like a Seinfeld name, too. Like my guy Bailman.
His grandfather and great uncle had opened the place in 1911.
Whoa.
And had a special cleaning system that they used. And when he bought the place in the early 70s, the guy made it part of the bill of sale that he used the same cleaning system. And none of the lines were more than 6 feet long. The kegs were all directly under the taps. He cleaned the line every night, and it was just fantastic. And that's when I got hooked on draft beer. I still remember what the guy said to me. He says, draft beer is the brewer's gold. Okay.
All right.
All right.
So speaking of draft beer
Yes.
and gold,
Cheers.
Prost.
Prost. Cheers.
Man, they filled that to the rim.
Yeah, they really
I'm
did.
going to air Prost you. I don't
yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
Salud. Is this the Hellas? Is that what you had
Yes,
him get?
this is Seoul from Easton, where the gold medals go.
Technomancer? Is that right?
Technomancer. They're 5% Hellas.
Ooh.
So sessionable,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah, I'm willing to go with that.
I felt like we need a palate cleanser before we go into these next
Yeah.
2 bottles.
Yeah, we did have
Well-
a lot of really heavy beers.
I'm also
so far.
figuring at this point, since we have the lighter beer before we get into the rest of them, that we should do Happy Fun Time.
It is the perfect beer for fun.
Oh,
time.
are we
It is
gonna- are we
the
gonna
perfect
do that?
beer for that. So Wayne, I suppose that means you have to work a little harder.
Yeah, that means I gotta do things. That music was loud.
It was. Sorry, I forgot which knob it was at first. Which potentiometer it was.
Downtown.
By the way,
Berlin
Lou,
at
you do
4
have
a.m.
your own, I think we neglected to tell you, your own volume knob for your headphones.
Oh, I'm
too.
good. I'm fine.
Good.
Cool.
Cool.
There's always something we forget to tell the guests.
At least we told him about last call this
We
time.
did, yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts in this game. Cheers, Internet.
Hi.
And welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, a podcast trivia segment that definitely has all of its permits in order. Today we are playing everyone's favorite Happy Fun Time game, of course, Libation or Fabrication, the OG. But this time there's a twist. All of the beers in today's game, both the real beers and the fake beers, were provided by our official favorite patron, James Lambert.
I feel so
Oh,
guilty
geez.
saying that. We love you all,
The rest of the patrons know we love
but
them.
We do.
Nobody
We
else
do.
But the
has
rest of the patrons don't bring us Cantillon.
nobody else has given us a bottle of Macallan 12 or me
Bring us-
vials of
yeah.
Johnny Walker Blue.
Cantillon, send us strippers, apparently.
Damn.
And also literally gave me a link to a Google Doc that's like 2 pages of funny, fake, and real beer names that he came up with for me to use in Happy Fun Time Games.
I
And
love
I
it. I
am
love
lazy as shit. And any way I can be more lazy, I am very happy for. So thank you once again, James, for everything you do for us. So this game is a game in which, for Lou, who's never played before, I will give you the name of a beer, and you have to tell me if it's a real or if it's fake. Pretty simple. And we'll rotate who guesses first each round, and we will begin in time-honored tradition to my left with Dan, and our first beer of the game is called Boba Fetish. Is that real or fake?
There is no way Disney would let that slide. That is fake.
All right, Dan saying fake on copyright grounds. Steph, what do you think?
Also, I don't think Fetish brewed that, and I don't think anybody else would.
No, because the only people that would have brewed it would have been Fetish.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're too hipster to brew that.
They like music more than movies.
They do like music more than movies. That is a fact. I'm going to say fake.
Steph also saying fake. And finally, Lou, agree or disagree?
I will agree with them.
Agree and say fake all around. Everybody is correct. It is, in fact, fake. Urban Dictionary, though, defines Boba Fetish as a Star Wars fan that gets aroused by the idea of their partner dressing up as Boba Fett. Pretty straightforward.
Wow.
James made the comment, and
Urban Dictionary, and it's a sex thing. Imagine.
I know, really. James did make the comment on this name that you guys went to as well, that he was surprised that Fetish has not yet brewed this beer. I said it's probably because they're so into music. Moving on to our second beer of the game, and Steph's going to guess first on this one. This one is called Just Rabbits. Is that real or fake?
I'm going to say real.
Steph is saying that's real. Lou, what do you think?
Sure, why not?
Sure, also real. And finally, Dan?
I'm going to buck the trend just in case they're wrong and I'm in the lead then. I'm going fake.
Taking the road less traveled by, and it pays off because it is, in fact, fake. I am particularly fond of this one because James is the only listener who not only appreciated but also verified my previous comment that if you eat only rabbits, you will die. I said this on the podcast, and it's true.
Yeah.
And he is in a position to know, and he said it is true. And so he came up with the name of that beer
Oh, my God.
in honor of that random fact.
Wow.
Moving on to our third beer of the game, and Lou is going to guess first on this one. And this beer is called Strong Bad the Belgianator. Is that real or fake?
By the way,
I really
Bad is
want it
back.
to be real.
You want it to be real?
I do want that to be real.
All right, you want
Let's
to say it's
real.
Let's
Screw
say
it.
real. All right, Dan, what do you think?
You know, I'm going to be the change that I want to see in the world.
That's a good way to look at things.
Aw.
Belgianating the people.
He doesn't know who Strong Bad is.
God, of course he doesn't. He's a millennial.
I asked you not to say that.
I just can't believe you don't know who Strong Bad is. Hold it. Control it.
Let's go real.
Malinko Dinko.
The beat, the tweet.
Dan is saying it's real. It's the cheat. Steph.
It's the cheat.
Check the email.
Have you seen the new puppet ones? The
No.
live action
What?
puppet ones?
Puppet
Yes,
ones?
they're
No
new.
way. Oh my
They have live action puppet ones and they're freaking amazing.
They did a Halloween special like a year or two ago.
It's even better.
Wow.
The freaking
Dan is
and it
Googling.
even takes place.
He's
The
Googling
one
right now. He's
episode
like, what
takes
are they
place
talking
in
about?
a brewery. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. You need to watch it.
Crystal clear, like import beer.
The cheat, the tort, the cheat.
I should've used
I don't. I don't
anyway.
even remember what it is.
What is this?
I'm
Strong
gonna-
Bad the
There he is. That's him.
Strong Bad the Belgianator.
Oh, Homestar Runner. Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Well, it might be fake because I'm sure we've talked about that on the show before. And so I'm going to say fake.
Steph saying
And
fake.
I feel like all the fake names are probably related to things we've said on the show before.
Steph is wrong.
Oh, fuck.
It's real.
Yes.
It's a Belgian strong dark ale, of course, from Hopworks Urban Brewery in Oregon.
I was there.
I know.
Damn it.
Yes, I appreciate. There's actually a couple of Homestar Runner references in James' document, this being one of them. I did actually write in my notes, and this is funny, Dan. If you are not familiar with Homestar Runner, please
are
reevaluate
probably-
your life decisions.
or you are probably a millennial.
You're a millennial. Moving.
I
Homestar
bought
Runner?
my brother a cheat. And
Oh,
when you hit,
yeah.
it's a stuffed cheat, and you hit it, and it goes.
That's funny.
It's freaking awesome.
You go if you go to that website now, like you remember back in the day, like the flash, like they were full screen videos.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like literally like 3 inches on a modern screen. Like it's so small now. All right, we're gonna swing back around to Dan. I got 3 more beers, and you're gonna guess first on this one. This one is called Steph Weiss. Is that real or fake?
I don't know.
Hefner Weizen.
That's better.
We're going to say real. I'm going to go real.
Dan is gonna say real.
What
Steph.
have they been so far? Fake, fake, real?
Fake, real, fake.
Fake,
No,
real,
no,
fake.
no. I'm sorry. Fake, fake, real. Yes.
Fake, fake, real. Usually, I always say real because you're lazy as fuck, and I don't think you're good at. But in
this was
this
James.
case,
This wasn't me. I didn't do any
I know.
work.
In this case, it's the other way around.
I just added a little
Oh,
color
but
commentary.
wait, he provided you the real ones and the fake ones.
Both, yeah.
Shit.
I did almost
Yeah,
nothing.
that's been messing with me because I've been trying to think if it's you. Like, you have a pattern.
Yeah, this is harder.
A lot of his fake beer names are references to
What
our
did you
past
say?
podcast experiences.
What did you say?
What did I say?
You said real.
So I'm going to say fake.
It's funny. Dan couldn't even remember what he just answered, so there's no way you guys are going to remember the references to old podcast episodes. Dan said real. Steph said fake. Finally, Lou. Steph Weiss, is that real or fake?
The real.
Saying real. Dan and Lou are correct.
Yes.
It
How
is
have
in
I
fact
not
real.
had this?
It's a Hefeweizen from And Union.
From who?
And Union. So
And?
they're kind of like one of
I
these
need to look this up.
roaming gypsy brewer type things.
And,
that work,
like A&D?
A&D Union.
Two words?
Yes. They work with a handful of small Bavarian breweries, so they don't actually have a brewery themselves.
And it's actually spelled the way I spell my name.
yeah, exactly.
I'm adding
Wow.
it to my wish list.
They call it a true and
Wow.
traditional unfiltered Bavarian Weiss with a twist. Obviously, Steph would much rather see her name on a Pilsner because she liked them before they were cool.
No, my very first ever favorite beer style was a Hefeweizen, and I still love a good German Hefeweizen.
Well, there you go. You have to seek that
But it
one
has
out.
to be a German Hefeweizen.
Their
not
cans are
American.
really cool. They have really
Wait,
cool.
wait.
design
So
on
what's
the
the twist? Did I miss something?
can. I'm actually not sure.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's funny because that's they're a commercial description, and I was like, oh, what's the twist? And I was like, they don't really say.
The
I
twist
think
is the mystery.
It might be particularly hoppy, which is kind of like meh, a letdown if that's the twist, but whatever. Moving on, and Steph is going to guess first on this one, and this beer is called Man the Dan.
Well, if Steph Weiss was real, I'm going to assume that's real too.
All right, Steph saying that is real. Lou, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, real. Yeah. And finally, Dan the Man.
Yeah,
Dan
real.
the
I
Dan.
hope so.
Is that real? Everybody said real. Everybody is wrong.
Can't believe nobody ever grabbed that stupid one.
Coming up short. Coming up short on finding a cool beer name incorporating my other co-host. This is unfortunately not real. The Man the Dan gets a little weird when you consider it in verb form.
Yeah.
Kind of like man the torpedoes. Man the Dan.
I almost made a joke about that, and I was like, no, let's not open that can of worms.
Probably best.
Moving on to our sixth and final beer of the game, and Lou is going to guess first on this beer. This beer is called This Is Not the Greatest Stout in the World. This is just a tribute.
Yes.
Saying real, Dan, what do you think?
I hope it's real. I got to say real.
All right,
I really
also
want it to
saying
be real.
Dan's only got one wrong so far.
And I have to say real because I think I've gotten none right.
No, you had the
One
first one
right.
right. You got the first one right. Everybody's saying real. Everybody is correct. It is, in fact, real. It is an Imperial Stout from ICF Brewing in Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, Mexico.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
Yes. This
Wow.
beer was made as an homage or a tribute, if
course.
you will, to Wood Stout.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, they didn't have Wood Stout at the
Wow.
time. They were like, we want
We'll
Wood
make
Stout,
our own Wood Stout.
but they didn't want to make a clone, so they made something
They
that
made a
was
tribute.
sort of a tribute.
So
That's
did,
kinda
did
cool.
Jack Black help brew that one then?
It had nothing to do with it. And it's Mexico, so he probably can't sue them. So that's the end of the game, and I'm going to add up the score real quick here. And we have a runaway winner. Well, not really. With 5 out of 6 correct. Dan.
God
Damn, Dan.
Wow.
Dan's been
Man
doing
the
good.
Dan.
Man the Dan.
Yeah.
Dan. Swab the Dan.
Wait.
In second place, right behind Dan with 4 points, is Lou. Sitting in third place. Unfortunately, Steph only had 2 right, but it was the first and the last one that you had correct.
Bum, bum, ba-dum.
Fair enough. This is, of course, the point of the podcast where we shout out to our most generous patrons on Patreon. And, of course, topping the list this episode with infinite thanks and allowing me to be even more lazy is, of course, our most awesomest patron, James Lamberg. Thanks again.
That's my favorite.
Thank you for all.
Is he on the soundboard now?
No, but that was...
Ooh, that's my favorite.
Oh, that's Wayne.
Yes, that's me. Thank you, James, once again for providing all these beer names. I will be using more of them again in the future. The
Damn
rest
it. I'm
of
going
our
to lose.
awesome patrons that we need to shout out right now are Eric Dixon, Joe Mansell,
James Ball bat.
Sloan Peterson, Brian Mills, Oak Brook Brewing Company, Wolfgang von Koltz,
Oh, Black Lager, keep on rolling.
Jen McDonald, Marilyn Engelman,
Oh, the pretzel.
Josh Price, Ron McDonald, and Victoria Miles.
Wee, heavy.
Remember, guys, if you want to get in all the cool patron action, go to patreon.com/beerbusters.
Hey, Wayne, what time is it?
It is time to settle up this bitch.
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate, a monthly subscription box service for epic geek gear and gamer items and pop culture gear. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, and unique one-of-a-kind items, and so much more. You have until the 19th of every month at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive this month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, it happens. It's over. You missed it. By supporting Loot Crate, you are also showing your support for Beer Busters. You can sign up at trylootcrate.com/beerbusters and enter the code BRIDGE10 to save 10% on any new subscription. That is trylootcrate.com/beerbusters and enter the code BRIDGE10 to save 10% on your new subscription.
Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Secret Hopper, an innovative new mystery shopper service for breweries. It's an idea that was created out of the love of two things, beer and the experience of sharing it. Breweries are attempting to differentiate themselves in an increasingly crowded market, and Secret Hopper can help you improve your customer experience. You can see their brewery from the other side of the bar by visiting secrethopper.com/beerbusters. Sign up to get secret hopped when you can find areas to improve, new areas of opportunity, monitor changes in your customer habits, and learn to grow from it. That's secrethopper.com/beerbusters to get started today.
Beer me! Beer me! Beer me! Beer me!
Round 2, fight.
Okay, there's a good-looking dark beer in front of me right now.
Good looking dark beer.
Is this what I think it is?
If it's what you think it is, that it actually is.
If you're thinking what it is.
If you're wondering if I want you to, I want you to. Is it the anniversary?
It's the anniversary.
Yes! I'm going to try to keep up with that every year. Just put the number in.
Anniversary.
St. Boniface.
Next year will be anniversary.
Their anniversary hegemony for the 7th year.
Yes.
Congratulations
I
to those
can't
guys.
believe St. Boniface has been around 7 years.
I know.
That's so
And
cool.
to plug, we will be recording there again, finally, on May the 4th.
Be with you.
Yeah.
And this is what was decided. Dane, John, and I decided that we will be dressing up as Star Wars characters.
Well, you got the
And-
onesie.
No, it has. I've already done the onesie. It has to be something else. And John's going to do a special firkin that night, and I told him it doesn't have to have peppers in it.
Whoa,
Wow.
that's very nice of you.
Yeah, I know it's nice of me. You're welcome.
Maybe that night could be a Boba Fetish.
Oh, but bump. So come out on May 4th.
I haven't taken a sip of this yet. I'm so anxious.
It's always so
It's
good.
still cold.
It's always so good.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
That's how I like it.
But
It's
this
very
isn't
nice.
session.
So let's talk about the phrase craft beer for just a moment. Let's try to be serious.
Yes.
There are people that say craft beer is dead. They're saying that we shouldn't be using the phrase anymore. There's now this new phrase, indie beer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do we call it? Where's it going?
I think we call it beer.
Very good answer.
I actually said that in the first beer book I ever wrote, that first Pennsylvania Breweries back in 98. Why don't we just call it beer? Because, I mean, craft beer, I mean, I'm a freaking dinosaur. I'm from back when we called it microbrewed beer because we couldn't agree even on what the hell to call it. And then microbrewed caught on, and then, they weren't micro anymore. And now, of course, you've got things like, you've got Sam Adams, you've got Yingling, and then you have weedy little nano brewery. So, micro would work again, but at the end, do we call it this? Do we call it that? You get people that are like, oh, Sam Adams isn't craft anymore. They're too big. Okay, Sierra Nevada's not craft anymore. They're too big. Their beer tastes the same. The company's still owned by one person.
Yeah.
What is it about them that makes them not craft? I don't understand that. I don't see the thing that nobody ever really agrees with me on. So I have a microphone in front of me, so I'm going to say it. Is I don't understand why a brewery should be punished for being successful. Yeah. And when you take away, when you say they're no longer craft, and the only thing that has changed is how much beer they sell. That's not fair.
They obviously make good beer if people are buying it. Yeah.
I mean, I remember this was back in I really am old. We used Usenet. which I'm not sure most of your listeners even know what the hell it is. It was a really early text character-based version of the web, which it isn't, but that'll do. And I remember talking about this, oh my God, like in the early 2000s, and one of my friends saying, what the hell is wrong with these kids? I don't know who the hell they are. They think Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is just not that good. Hey, what's wrong with them? And
Who are these people?
Honest to God. What the? So that's, I mean, if that's not craft beer, what the hell is? And as far as that goes, okay, here's the thing. Does it matter who makes it, or does it matter what it is? Because, you know, if I put it to you in a blind tasting, I dare you to taste the craft beers against the ones that are not.
The crafty beers.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm sorry. I was just at the Elysian, one of the Elysian tap rooms in Seattle back in September, and I had a really good time, and the beers tasted great.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
there's plenty of breweries that have been scooped up by InBev
So what is
that
it?
still make really
Well,
good
actually,
beer.
I got to say this. Elysian has a beer that I really want to try called the Men's Room, and I've heard great things about it. I know
I've actually had that beer.
Yeah, it's a radio show that's in Seattle, and I almost got a job as their producer. But I've heard great things about the beer from other people too. But to me, it goes into if you like the beer, drink it. And
Yes.
with your blind taste comment, last episode we played that unlabeled
Oh
game.
my God, and we were awful.
It was so it's this
It was
board game
so
that's out
awesome.
where you have
It was so
mystery beer.
awesome. How
it was
bad
so
we were.
awesome, and we were
Yeah,
terrible.
it was basically-
Awesome how bad we were.
We come to the table with mystery beers. You know what it is, but you don't tell anybody else. And you pour it, and it's a blind taste test to figure out. You can either go with the
You can guess
style,
varying degrees
Right.
of specificity.
Oh, okay.
You can
for
go
one
with
point,
overall
yeah.
style, like lager versus ale, or you could break it down into pilsner versus whatever else. Fermentation style, ABV. Not a single one of us got a point in four
No.
rounds.
Although we were close as shit in everything.
Oh, we were really.
but we didn't get anything right.
I think the problem
Yeah.
is we were trying to be too specific because we all thought we,
We
were so
were.
cool. We were like, I know exactly what
and
this is.
we all had a pretty good buzz on by the time we played that.
That's
game.
Certainly
true.
did. It was a lot of fun, though. Shout
It
out
was
to
a lot of fun.
Unlabeled and
It was. I look
Nate,
forward to playing that.
who sent us that game.
We
Really
need to
cool.
play again, but
one
not
of,
on the
one
podcast.
of the things they tell you at the beginning of every GABF judging session, don't say out loud what you think the beer is because you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh, you're always,
You know?
Well, and the other
I
thing,
mean,
like,
even if you make it, you still stand a good chance
probably,
of not being
and
right.
there's so many beers, there's
Yeah.
so many styles of beer, there's so much subtlety even within a style. Like
Right.
you're not going to know
You're not
unless
gonna know.
you've got 3 beers that it possibly could be, and you'd be like, oh, it's that one. But yeah, just like
I didn't even
yeah.
guess the Pilsner. I
You
saw
didn't.
That's
I
the thing,
bought it
yeah.
specifically because
I know,
want.
but
like, I thought
it's
you'd
because
get
it had a sweet. I thought it was a Helles.
Right.
I was embarrassed about that, but
Well, I think I think it proved a really good point, and kind of like what Lou was saying is that you're not.
show it to me in the glass, or
You could be you could be a certified experienced judge, and you're still not.
you could be
like,
Josh
I mean, but
Weichert.
the thing is, what you're getting at, and the definition that everybody uses is the one from the Brewers Association, and nobody ever follows that up and says, of course, the Brewers Association is a business association designed to promote the interests of its members.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's all
That's
it is.
true.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's true, yeah.
Why aren't we making a definition?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I get that it matters who makes it. But really, I mean, and I had a thing that I always used to say, and I still stick by it. I just don't say it as much anymore because now people get pissed off when I say it. If it's not being made by child or slave labor, if it tastes good and it tastes good the next time I have it, and as long as it's reasonably priced, I don't really care who made it.
Yeah.
If it's good, I want to drink it.
Yeah.
And I will buy it.
And it's all
can
for
see
me.
that.
There's a lot of mood involved with it too. Because if you, obviously, I like heavier beers. Like we've said, this is right up my alley. But man, I'll be damned if on a hot summer's day, if I'm going out to a Phillies game and I'm tailgating, you give me a Miller Lite, I will drink the shit out of that beer.
I mean, I know John Hall, who was formerly the editor at All About Beer. He and I used to go out sometimes and drink Bud Heavy just to thumb our nose at everything. Just like, yeah, that's what we're drinking. Screw them.
Were you kind of being hipster there a little bit?
I guess in a weird way.
A
Although,
little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never
being
gotten
hipster before
anywhere
hipster was cool,
near
right?
a pair of skinny jeans. That's not happening.
Not gonna.
No.
Naga.
You even do skinny gloves.
Naga wear skinny jeans.
No.
So While I was doing a little research for this episode, I learned something about you that I did not know, and I was very excited about it. This is a good thing. When I was reading your bio on Full Pint, I did not realize that you were you helped to formulate a certain GABF gold medal winning beer from Earth Bread and Brewery that I happen to be a huge fan of. So, do you want to? I'm sure there's got to be a story behind that.
We're talking about Percuno's Hammer.
Of course.
We're talking about
Baltic
Baltic
Porter. That is out of this world.
I've got, we could almost do a whole podcast on Baltic Porters and Percuno's Hammer. I first had a Baltic Porter in 95. I was, again, like I said, I was doing a newsletter for a beer store. I did it for a couple other ones as well. I did one for Kunda out in King of Prussia. And I had started working that temporary job, which was out in Phoenixville. So I'm on my way home to Bucks County, and I would sometimes stop and drop off the copy for them. And sometimes Tim Kunda would just say, I got some new beers in. Do you want to come and taste them? So I'd do that because, wholesalers would drop off samples of new beers they wanted them to try. So, and sometimes Tim just wanted me to come by and we'd talk about beer. So I went in one day and I'm like, what do you have? And he starts laughing. He says, well, I got this Polish porter. And I'm like, Polish porter? I'd never heard of it. It was this big fat bottle of a Kochim. And he poured it out and we're like, shit, that's really dark. Because it is. It like sucks light out of the room. And we're both sniffing it and we're drinking it. I still remember the look on his face, which I assume mirrored mine. It was just like, oh, wow. We weren't laughing at all anymore. And I was hooked. I loved it. And so I started looking for other ones. Found out that most of them came through an importer in Chicago. So I was drinking Dojlidi and a Kochim and Zavich. And so then I see that Tom Baker has opened Heavyweight. And I'm like...
The Doctor Who Tom Baker?
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The Earth Bread and Brewery Tom Baker now and the Barhiye Tom Baker now. But this was his first place. He opened a production brewery in New Jersey that was only going to make big beers. And I'm like, oh, you've got to do this. So I actually wrote him a letter. Because I was going to send the beers with it. And I'm like, if you're doing this, you've got to do this. You've got to do this style. It's called Baltic Porter. I have brewing because I'd been digging into. I'd been talking to people who had made them, and Jackson had this thing about they were made with beans, and I sent him a bottle of each of those types of porter, and I didn't hear anything else about it. And like 5 months later, I get this frenzied email from Tom that he had taken those bottles along because he had forgotten about them. And they're like, I got to take something to the Brewers Guild meeting. And he takes them along, and they opened them, and they must have had the same look in their face that Tim Kunda and I did. And he's like, we got to make this. So I think like 3 weeks later, I went over to the brewery early in the morning, and we're putting in beans, and we're throwing in a bunch of malt. And then, of course, it being Tom, we played ping pong while things mashed. Started up, cooked it, and did the whole thing, and then put it in the fermenter, and came back when it was done, and it was just freaking awesome. I came up with the name. I found a Baltic thunder god, Percuno, who Tom, I think, described on the label as an irascible middle-aged man, which, and. It was really successful. I think it was a run of like 300 750s, and people really liked it, and he started making more of it. And the second best moment, because I have to admit, the winning the GABF gold with it when he did it at Earth Bread Brewery was the best moment. But the second best, well, it was still coming out. There was this, I was sitting at DBA in New York, just sitting at the bar. I had just wandered in there late one night by myself, and the bartender is talking to some other person. He says, we had this beer. It was the best fucking beer. It was this dark shit. It was really good. It was some kind of weird, like, god name. And the guy is like practically spitting on the other guy. He's so carried away, right? And I said, was it Percuno's Hammer? He said, that's the fucking shit. And I'm like, and he's like off again, and I said, I helped brew that. He's like, no way. And I was just like, it was the best. And then, after Heavyweight went under, Victory did their Baltic Thunder, which was essentially the same recipe. I worked with them on that. And I don't really want to overdo how much I had in. I was mostly just talking. I mean, I don't formulate recipes. My home brewing days are long gone. But I do remember that they ran into trouble with the label, with getting approval on it, and that first batch sat in the tank for 9 months. Oh, wow. Oh my God. I remember going in there at about 8 months with Ron, and we were just back there like tickling the zwickle, as they say, and
tickling the zwickle.
I'm like, dude, is there any of this left? He starts laughing. He says, I think it might be down like 2 barrels. But yeah, that was a pretty great experience.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. So Lou, where are you going tomorrow?
I'm going to the Philly Beer Fest.
The Beer Fest.
Oh,
Beer Fest.
that's the German one we were at last year.
Yep, and I
At
was
the
there.
Pennsylvania
Oh,
German
that's
I think
Society.
we were
such
there
a
3 years
good
ago.
event.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's still under the radar.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, great German beers. Just and the thing I love about it is that building. It's like a freaking maze, and every
it's
time
so
you
awesome.
go in another room, there's some other amazing
They have
thing.
a piece of the Berlin Wall there.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They do?
They do.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Out in the back in like the little
Yeah.
garden area.
Oh.
It's like, it's just
Yeah.
there.
I think my favorite vendor of the day, besides all the awesome beers that were there, was the cigar place that had
we got
cigars that were
cigars.
dipped in craft beer.
Those are
Wow.
pretty good.
They were
Nice.
so good.
And the basement was all cheese. It was
Yeah,
really
it was
Yeah,
cheese,
yeah,
cider,
great
cheese
event.
and
Did
cider.
Did you see the Poe enactor?
No, I don't remember seeing a
There
Poe
was somebody
enactment.
from the Edgar Allan Poe home here when he lived here in Philly.
Yeah, that's right down the street from that building.
Yeah, they were pouring sherry Amontillado from a cask, and I
a
got
cask of Amontillado.
Edgar Allan Poe handed me a glass of Amontillado. It was
I would be scared.
That's amazing.
And there was
I
a
would have taken a selfie.
skeleton sitting right there. in the
was there
bar
a
beside
stack of bricks next to him and he's holding like a trowel?
It was fantastic. So this year, because I'm doing a seminar again comparing German craft breweries doing American beers with American craft breweries doing German beers. But because
That hurts my brain.
I know you really have to, and you can't say it quickly either. Because I enjoyed the outdoor fire pit so much, Marnie's got me set up. I'm going to be out there for like an hour or so, sitting by the fire, telling stories, and getting a red hot poker in the fire, and then sticking it in a pitcher of double buck because it gets caramelized.
Nice,
It's
yeah,
really pretty
yeah.
cool. So that's kind of
That's
fun.
cool.
Yeah, there's just it's just a lot of fun stuff.
It's a really cool event.
Good time.
It is a really cool event.
We need to get back there. It's been too long. I love German beer, and I love that there's a festival that celebrates
Yeah.
German beer. Great music there too.
Yep.
What was the band when we were there? I want to say Polkadelphia, but I feel like that's not it.
There was a really cool like dance routine with Dan over there last time we went up. It was like
Shoot poppers?
traditional, whatever you call,
Clogging and
yeah, that's
that
sort of
kind
like
of thing.
traditional German Bavarian dancing. I don't know. I'm not.
Pot.
No,
I'm not that cultured.
The
But
Little
yeah,
Fields do it.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That. But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have such a great tradition of German brewing in the area. I mean, in the modern era as well as the golden age of American brewing. So it's just a great event. And then actually, the day after that, I'm going to another beer event up. My wife and I bought a retirement home that we're fixing up in central Pennsylvania in a little town called Millheim. And we're probably in Millheim largely because there's a brew pub there called Elk Creek Cafe
Creek.
that is one of my favorites. And we bought a house a block away. And they have their Day of Delicious Darkness Sunday
Nice.
from 3 to 6. They have 8 of their big dark beers on draft. So I'm going up for
My
that.
brother got his doctorate at Penn State, so every time we would go up to visit him, and whenever it was a Sunday, we would go there and
for
have
brunch?
brunch and
Nice.
sit in the big table in the window. It was always their tradition. That's
Yes.
and apparently, I found out that one of the local artists that sings there quite often was a friend of my brother's when he was going
Oh,
there,
wow.
and apparently he would get up on stage and sing with her. And I'm like, my brother sings.
Apparently when he's had enough to drink.
I know.
Yeah, right.
I learned all these new things about him. So, yes, that area has a special place in my heart. Such a
pretty cool place.
A great spot. Is Gamble Mill still open?
No.
That's
No.
very sad.
There's I think there is a brewery in Bellefonte right now. Well, there's a cidery, Good and 10.
Mm-hmm.
We were just there last weekend. Actually, my wife and I were up. There's the distillery, Big Spring is there. I don't know that there's a brewery in town. Of course, there probably is because it's a town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gamble Mill closed.
Well, is Robin Hood, is that considered Bellefonte? Right off the interstate?
It might be mailing address, but I don't think
It's not
it's not
in
the town.
Bellefonte,
Yeah,
but
it might be mailing address. Mailing address covers big area.
The big sign. Oh, Happy
Valley. Yeah, that's State
not,
College.
Yeah, that's State College. That's
Yeah.
not Bellefonte.
Yeah.
Anyway. So if our listeners want to catch up with you via the interwebs.
Or cash you outside.
Or cash you outside, where should they go?
Well, as Michael Jackson always used to say, and I learned that from him as well as a lot of other shit.
He means the beer Michael Jackson.
My name is my brand. I'm at Lou Bryson on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. That's where I am these days, and at the Daily Beast. So they can go to the Daily Beast and go to the half full section, which is the food and drink part. And
the half full.
I have to say, I am so proud to be on that because the other people that are on there, I mean, they're all people that I want to be when I grow up. David Wondrich, Wayne Curtis, Noah Rothbaum, just great kids. Max Watman. Max Watman had this fantastic piece about making pecan pies that everyone should go and look.
So good.
And he's like, I think I learned how to make them after getting into 4 digits on because he made them for a restaurant. He's just like, don't even think anymore, but this is what you do. And I'm like, oh, sorry, kind of went off on a tangent there.
Why don't we have pecan pie here now?
Why don't we have it right
really
now?
The hell?
It's the that and shoe fly pie, man.
Oh,
Good shoe fly
wet
pie.
bottom shoe fly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't
I
give
used
me
to
that dry shit.
I hated shoe fly pie when I was a kid. And
What kid likes it? It's not meant for kids. It's meant for adults.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, complete 180. Oh, God.
A couple of years ago when he became an adult.
Ugh, millennials.
Better late than never. Hey, you are technically a millennial.
No,
so
I'm a
shut
zennial. There's a name for us now. I'm a zennial.
Can we end this part?
Yes, and then we'll go
Because
on
I
to
want
last
to
call.
open this. And we
That's the big one. We're going to last call.
It's the big one.
The big one is for last call.
Yes, and while you were on the social media looking for at Lou Bryson, you can also go to the Twitter.
When
and
you're
the
adding Lou Bryson.
Yes.
Go at us, bro.
Go to Twitter and Instagram so you can at us. We are at Beerbusters. Facebook at Beerbusters Podcast. It's not an at, but it is now because fuck it. It's all, the same thing.
Beerbusters Podcast.
Beerbusterspodcast.com. Also, we're 805-991-BEER. 805-991.
And friend us on Untapped.
Yeah, Toast
Yeah.
Our Check-ins.
Shit.
And
2337.
speaking of the phone number, 805-911-BEER.
991, not 91. Do not call 911 and try to leave a message for us.
We're going to start curating those messages, and we're going to do like a little thing at the beginning of...
Yeah.
Maybe
I
not...
don't know. Some of them might not be fit for...
That's why I
what I
said
mean.
earlier about the pranksters, but
Exactly.
little snippets here and there if they
Snippets
make
here and there,
sense.
but I really want to start opening at least some episodes, if not every episode, with a message from someone.
You heard it.
So call and leave us a message. Even if you text us, we'll read the text message.
Jim, you left the iron on.
Yeah, leave us a voicemail. 40,000 roaring orcs or
Yes.
whatever. But yeah, so 805, what is it?
How do you not know it by now? It's been a year and a half.
805-991-BEER?
Yeah.
805-991-2337.
Bingo. There
Wow.
you go.
Wow.
There it is.
867-5309.
The funny thing is, if I imagine it being said in your voice, I remember it.
That's funny.
I can live with that. Well, unfortunately, this brings us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. Lou, thank you so much, man, for coming out here and chatting with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Of course it has.
It's been awesome.
Thanks for
awesome.
talking a lot.
Yes, I look forward to...
That's important.
Yeah, that is true. Hopefully down the road we can catch up with you again at some point, and I will buy your book, or hopefully get it for my birthday, ? Well, anyway, I am Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented.
My name is my brand.
Yep, that guy right there. Just remember, as always, no squids were harmed in the making of this particular episode, and we'll see you next time.
I forgot to think of something clever.